Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and today, just before the patch, we're going to be doing a video talking all about how Tangled Web is probably going to get destroyed in this upcoming patch. Now, I didn't think about this until I watched one of the Envoy videos, and special shout out to Goofy Rexy. I'll bring out the slide that kind of jived my thoughts here in a little bit. But there is a character that's going to be up live when the patch goes, well, when the servers come up. That is Zombie Iron Man. And there's something in his kit that I'm not sure if many people really pointed out, but I'm going to do it here because I think it's really, really important, and it might be the beginning of the short-lived end of Tangled Web, at least in Crucible and, you know, maybe War, I guess, if you see them on the War defense. But specifically in Crucible, because that's their game mode. We're going to talk about all this and more in this video, so if you're ready to go, then let's boil this down. Okay, and this is the slide from Goofy Rex's Envoy video that I just wanted to kind of point out really quickly. There is something really, really important, and actually I had another screenshot of it, but I kind of misplaced it. Anyways, what's important though is Zombie Iron Man has 200% accuracy. Okay, now I'm not sure. I didn't watch this video in full. I don't know if he actually ended up talking about a potential counter to Tangled Web. He does talk about who you can use them with, and he suggests Tangled Web in here, but not as necessarily as a counter to Tangled Web. A lot of people are talking about how it's, at least in the Envoy call, that they were supposed to beat Dormhold. They have a chance to beat Underworld, although Underworld is actually a War offense team, so I'm not really sure. Maybe a lot of people without Mr. Negative are placing them on defense right now. I'm seeing a lot of four-man Underworld with Spider Weaver. Again, another, use of Spider Weaver. But I want to talk about here about what makes him so important, him and Hela together, actually. Some of the characters that you might want to use with the two of them to potentially beat Spider Weaver and the Tangled Web team in Cosmic Crucible, at least for this season, because they do get a little bit of bust for being the Spider-Verse characters. So, first thing that I want to do is draw your attention to the blog again. Yes, I know we've already been here when we talked about Hela's rework, and actually now we have the stats, the final stats for basically how Zombie Iron Man is going to be ranking against other characters, because we saw there were some screenshots of what his stats look like with gear tier 16 and striker. So I've added that to my Hela, to my Undying stat table, and we're going to take a look at that as well. But there's a couple parts of his kit that's really, really interesting. So now that we know that he is 200% accuracy, I want to draw attention to the turn order, because when he goes, or when you attack with him, it's going to be the special to the ultimate, unless there's some way that you can feed him energy. But this is I'll admit the turn order is a bit wonky, because Zombie Iron Man actually goes after Hela. Hela actually goes first, and she starts with her Death Knives, right? Which means she's, depending on who she's paired up with, she may or may not be spreading much at all. And I feel like this was designed to kind of lead up to this, because attack primary target for that much damage, and then apply bleed, disrupt, and ability block for 2 turns. It kind of feels like you'd want to spread that with Hela, but Zombie Iron Man has 109 speed, and Hela has 110. I'm pretty sure there's not a way to bump Iron Man's up on his own, so it's a bit of a confusing to me anyways, but I'm not sure if that really matters to what I'm actually trying to talk about here. But he does get a lot of extra focus for his attacks, which is great, and then he does give speed bar for Hela, which again is kind of weird because she goes before him anyways. If it was meant to go the other way around, then I could see the purpose for that. And then fill speed bar for all the undead Asgardians, which happens on all of his skills. But this attack here, Corrupted Unibeam, this is really important. So again, this is a turn 2 move, unless you use someone like maybe Shuri or Star-Lord. Frankly, I don't think Star-Lord would live long enough to even get his skill off, but Shuri might. And so you might get some random energy chucked at him, and you could try that, I guess, because this clears all barrier on all enemies, attacks for piercing damage, which is great, and then 100% crit chance against any enemies with bleed. So because he goes second, and Hela doesn't really apply bleed on her first turn, at least not with Death Knives, you're going to want some other characters that can do that. And we're going to talk about this, because that's a guaranteed 500% piercing crit if the enemy has bleed, which is pretty crazy. And for those of you who have fought against Tangled Web already, then you kind of know what the turn order is when you go up against them. You know that it's going to be 2099 or Noir potentially first, and then Spider Weaver is going to go next, and then all the other characters, right? So because they go first, that's good. You just kind of need to survive that attack, and then you need to apply the bleeds with some of your other characters, and then shit's going to get real pretty fast with Zombie Iron Man. It does all this other stuff. It also applies defense down, unfortunately, after it does the damage, but that's okay as well. You know, there's some opportunity to do some additional damage. Again, the real important, and this does a ton of extra focus, and the clear charges is only on war offense, so this is not in Crucible. However, this would definitely obliterate any Tangled Web and other characters, of course, with charges, but on war offense only. And not to mention this, a lot of people forget about this part of the passive. So when an enemy takes bleed, a damage from bleed, mind control that character to attack the most injured enemy. So I think that this character, the Zombie Iron Man, is going to be a lot better than people think that he is going to be. Not to mention he comes back to life, so you have to kill Hela first, and the AI is not particularly that good at targeting specific characters. Now Hela, on the other hand, can survive that because with her new passive, she spawns with stealth as long as Iron Man Zombie is on the field. So this may get flipped from 2099. That's possible, actually. But what else will happen is that Undead Asgard, don't remember that Greg's going to be on the field reducing turn bar. So anytime a Noir does a spread attack, or you know what I mean, like an AoE sort of attack, that could kill Greg. Any of 2099's AoE is going to kill a Greg. And then also it's going to summon a second Greg if Hela gets under 50% health for the first time. So a lot of ways for them to drop their own turn bar, which is also pretty good. So I want to talk about how that much damage is really, like, when we get to Zombie Iron Man's ult, I legitimately think that this has a good chance of wiping the field. Not to mention that he has guaranteed hits against them, even if they have charges, with Spider Weaver having charges. Now, this kind of brings the question that Hela does not have 200% accuracy. So what might you want to do in that case to guarantee that she lands her attacks? Well, I mean, you could use Heimdall beside them rather. There are some other characters that I'm thinking about as well. By the way, if Heimdall dies, that's okay. The accuracy still actually carries over even when he's dead, so that's fine too. There are some other characters that I want to talk about. Specifically, I want to talk about Dark Hunters. Now, for those of you who have Dark Hunters built, there's some extra space in this team for you to use them. Specifically, Ghost Rider, because Ghost Rider is quite fast. He has a speed of 127, which means he's going to go before Hela and Zombie Iron Man. He's going to use his health cycle, which is going to apply bleed to adjacent characters, which is really important, and it cannot miss. So it's not unavoidable, but unless they have evades, then this is still going to land, and it's still going to apply the bleeds, which is really important. Also, other characters that go ahead of them as well, Dr. Voodoo. Now, this is going to miss, so if you use the special, that this could miss, and it's not going to apply the ability block and defense down, unfortunately. However, it still will apply the mind control, so if there's any way to apply additional negative stats effects from mind control characters to, say, Spider Weaver, for example, that could still happen, and then you could spread from there, and that would be nice. And then also, of course, it gives the barrier to Dark Hunter allies, but also non-Dark Hunter allies for 20% of his max health as well. So if you stuck Dr. Voodoo in the center and put Hela and Zombie Iron Man to the side, and then the other two Dark Hunters to the other side, that could work as well. Now, you might want to consider using Heimdall still in this. I was thinking you could use Elsa Bloodstone, frankly, because she has enhanced accuracy, but maybe instead of that, I would just consider using Heimdall. So you could use Zombie Iron Man, Hela, Heimdall, Ghost Rider, and Dr. Voodoo. That way that the accuracy is still given to Hela, so when she uses her Death Knives, it's still going to hit. So you guys maybe haven't remembered that the changes to Hela's Death Knives is quite something. We'll talk about the kit and the stats just again, but the new version of Death Knives clears all barrier. So not only is this going to be your turn 1 for Hela, which is going to clear all the existing barrier on spawn from Tangled Web, but it's also going to, I don't know if they have any death proof to clear, but it'll do that too. And of course, if Iron Man Zombie, spread all negative stats effects. So however many negative stats effects you happen to get before Hela's turn, that's all going to spread. It's going to do a significant amount of damage because Hela does have quite a high damage stat. And of course, 5,000% extra focus. So this is pretty much guaranteed to land, and on top of additional regeneration for themselves as well. So there's some good options here, and I honestly think that for war, especially, they're gonna clear out. In Crucible, I think there's a very good chance that they could actually beat Tangled Web as well, which would be something, because Tangled Web literally just came out, and if that ends up happening, Spider Weaver and 2099 are still valuable in Arena. You know, they're still very good there. But yeah, this would be quite a quick, short Crucible run for them if they end up getting countered by Hela and Zombie Iron Man. Now, to finish this off, I do want to talk about the stats. Now, we went over this before in my Hela video when I just looked at Hela specifically. Just a recap, by the way, she had some pretty huge improvements in her health. Now, this is with war buffs, so some of this won't, the damage part is not necessarily going to apply in Crucible. This is just in war. However, her health with Zombie Iron Man is number 2 in the game, which is huge. Her damage is pretty respectable. It's not going to be this high outside of war, but all of her other stats are very, very strong in the top 20. So that's really, really good. Now, Zombie Iron Man. Now, we have this because of the Envoy videos that showed off. Level 90, G16, Stark Tech, 25%, 7 yellow, 5 red, blue striker 3. Now, this part's not super important. What is important is the rating, because that really shows like where they stack up against similar stat characters for those exact. I went to msf.gg and I plugged in these stats basically in here, and then I compared it against all the existing characters, and Zombie Iron Man has some of the highest health in the game, just a little bit above Rogue, which is very impressive. His damage stat is in the top 15, which again is very impressive. If there was some way to give him offense up before his ultimate, and he had the bleed to do the guaranteed crit on his ult, I think that would do enough damage. The 500% piercing with offense up and a guaranteed crit, I think would be more than enough to wipe the board on that Room 3 with Tangled Web, guaranteed. It would just do so much damage. Armor, number 12, very respectable as well. His focus stat's not really important because all of his attacks give extra focus, and I believe Hela might as well. I don't know, there's some additional focus in there. If you run Ghost Rider, oh, that's, never mind. Ignore what I just said about Ghost Rider, because that's only for Mystic allies. His resistance also is rank 14, which is very, very good as well. So all of his stats, very, very good. His speed is a little bit below average, still at 109. You can see that Hela is at 110. So I think it's a bit weird. I feel like Zombie Iron Man should have gone before her, in front of Hela, so that he could apply the special, which would do all those negative status effects, which then Hela would spread. I feel like that's how it was designed, but that's not what we're getting. Either way, though, this is going to be a very, very scary duo, and it wasn't until, like I said, that I saw this from Goofy Rexy that made me think, hey, maybe there's something valid here. Maybe we should start thinking about Zombie Iron Man in a different light, and maybe, just maybe, we should actually build this character. Now, what the unfortunate thing is, of course, I don't know if it's in my inbox anymore, but you guys know that he's going to be a very exclusive character. I don't even know if it's in here anymore, or how, yeah, this one here. So he will be around, but, you know, it's specifically to the Trick or Treat event, which is going to be starting on Thursday. There will be offers for him, but there will be no core orbs for him. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge to get additional shards for him, because they're frankly not going to be available. I don't know how many shards we're going to get in the event, but really it's just that and spending in the first couple of days. So I don't know. I really wish that he was available for core orbs, because I would have considered doing that, but I think part of the reason why we can't is because obviously we have Midnight Haunt, which is ongoing right now, which involves spending power cores for points. That's another story. I'm not going to go over all of this. It's pretty insane. But regardless, that would have given me an additional incentive to spend my power cores if I could open up power core orbs for Zombie Iron Man to get him unlocked. I don't know if I want to spend money on him. I probably don't. But boy, is this something that we should be considering for the future, because this could be something crazy. And if you're someone who does spend money and you are thinking about buying Zombie Iron Man, I think there's a very good chance that if you gear him properly enough, that you might be able to actually sweep the board against Tangled Web. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. This is just some pre-patch Boilon thoughts. Thought about this last night and I wanted to share it with you all. So that's the end of this video, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later, and I'll see you in patch 6.5. Boilon signing out.